First up is a film called Mickey 17. This is the latest from director Bong Joon-ho. His last film, if you recall, was Parasite, which is the first non-English language film to win an Academy Award for Best Picture. I will note this is in English. I am such a fan of director Bong's work. Now, if you're coming off of a film like Parasite, there are going to be expectations on your next film, and I'm going to lead up front with, this is not Parasite, but this is still an excellent film. If you're looking at his sort of oeuvre, this is more like Okja meets Snowpiercer, which are both also wonderful films in their own right. You know, I think director Bong continues to explore similar themes in all of his films, and you can feel those culminate in Mickey 17. You know, there's sort of like a respect and love for weird creatures. There's a sort of eat the rich mentality, an obsession with like a semi-post-apocalyptic or like, you know, dystopian society that he is continuing to explore in Mickey 17. So this film takes place in the future, and, you know, Earth is basically overrun, and so we're colonizing additional planets. And in order to go on a space mission, a character called Mickey, played by Robert Pattinson, signs up to be a thing called an expendable, where basically they scan you so they can reprint you at any time. And so he dies a lot. And this is in the trailers. I'm not giving anything away here. And I am not a huge Robert Pattinson person, but I was like, all right, well, if Bong Joon-ho believes in him, who am I to judge? And I will say, and I've seen plenty of his work, I'm not a convert per se, but I do tip my cap to Robert Pattinson in this. And it's funny coming off something like The Monkey, which I saw the prior week. You know, Robert Pattinson has to play different versions of this same character, and The Monkey's a little different, but Theo James is playing twins, and he's attempting to play, you know, obviously visually exactly the same characters who have different personalities. Robert Pattinson pulls it off, and I'm like, oh, this is how you do that. Anyway, so Mickey is on this space mission. He is surrounded by folks like Naomi Ackie, Stephen Yeun, and then you have Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette playing these, you know, kind of cult-like leaders of this mission. They're political figures. And I'm like, oh man, the comparisons to the current administration are going to be abundant. I don't know if that was his exact goal. You know, I don't think it was meant to be an exact commentary on the current US president, but it is clearly a commentary on political leadership, and it just happens to map really, really well to what's going on now. But at the same time, it's like, oh, this could map to any other political leader, you know, at any point in time. But it gave me more Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't even want to say his name, but the leader of Twitter/X, you know, vibe, as somebody who thinks they're technically savvy and then thinks they're also politically savvy and all these things. But it's almost hard to watch Mark Ruffalo's character. I think he does a great job of it, but it's just like, ooh. So this film then is about, you know, the kind of perils of space exploration and colonization and this group of people having to cohesively operate together in a new environment. And I will leave it at that plot-wise. Again, I really thought Robert Pattinson did a great job in this. There's also a fair amount of like physical comedy that is not something that I would associate with him, that he does a good job pulling off. You know, it's not like super slapsticky, but there's enough going on that I was like, you got me, dude. And again, thematically, it's very in line with the rest of Bong Joon-ho's body of work. So if you are a fan of his other work, especially, like, I think you're going to have a great time at this. I just want to temper expectations in that, no, it's not quite as savvy as Parasite, but I also think in many ways it is more accessible because it is a bit broader, and, you know, I hate to say it, but it is in English. So I think more people will be able to see this, and it still continues to explore the themes that he is such a fan of and really good at commentary on. So Mickey 17, I had a really good time. I was very worried because while it's not a sequel, this is the follow-up to a film that I am such a huge fan of. And so, you know, there's always a little bit of expectation there. But I think as long as you're like, look, I'm not going to see Parasite 2, you're going to have a good time. It's not as well woven together as maybe, actually, I think even Snowpiercer, but it's still a really great film. I'm going to give this 4.5 out of 5. The other film I have this week, and I'm almost hesitant to call it a film, it's called In the Lost Lands. It's directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. It's based on a George R.R. Martin short, which at a point in time would have been an exciting factor for a film, but now is just a red flag. And it stars Mila Jovovich and Dave Bautista. And I was actually very excited for this because I was like, this looks so ridiculous. I hope it's like campy and delightful and fun, and you can like imbibe spirits or take whatever you're going to take as long as it's legal in your state, and have a good time watching this. And unfortunately, this did not even succeed at that. And I was like, dang it, come on, man. So it is about a post-apocalyptic type future. I don't even know if it's supposed to be set on Earth, but it's a post-apocalyptic society. So I guess there's a little bit of a theme this week. And Mila Jovovich plays like a witch or a sorceress who I guess can't not grant wishes. And then there's also, it's so weird because it's a post-apocalyptic society and you have like witches and knights Templar and a king and a queen, but also everybody uses guns. And I'm like, all right, like this just doesn't work that well often, but all right, here we go. And then she hires Dave Bautista as a bounty hunter or a hunter or whatever it is to help guide her to capture the power of something. I'm already losing interest describing it, which should tell you how just atrocious it is. And again, not even atrocious in a fun way. There are some things that like did make me giggle in it. Like there's a lot of horseback scenes, but you can tell that they never ever put the two stars actually on a horse. And so there's all these like really weird close-ups of them bobbing up and down as if there's a horse under them, but they're also bobbing up and down at different rates. And so it's like they're not on the same horse, even though they're supposed to be. And then you cut to a wide shot and it's like a CG horse probably. I was just like, what's going on here? So maybe there is actually a little bit of amusement factor. You know, it's a lot of fight scenes. It's zero chemistry between anybody. In fact, so much so, and I hope this is not a huge spoiler, but I do have to comment on it. Like, there are times when there's supposed to be romantic tension between them and all this stuff, and then they cut away and they don't let them kiss. And I'm like, is this because they refuse to? Is this because Paul W.S. Anderson and Mila Jovovich are married and they're like, no, we're not interested in like her kissing other people? You know, I just don't know. Or if it was like because they just had no chemistry and they knew that we could not sell that. So oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, it was really bad. The action isn't even that exciting. The acting is cardboard. It's cardboard acting. I don't know if this is like a tick or a physical, you know, like overbite scenario, but Mila Jovovich never closes her mouth. Her teeth are like always out, and it was driving me up the wall. And she does on one occasion, and so she's clearly capable of it. I was like, is this an acting choice? What is happening here? I don't understand, but it makes her look vacant for the entire film. And I'm like, this is supposed to be a character who has her wits about her. Like, what are you doing here? Even though this film, I think, thinks it wants to be unique with some of like the dystopian future it's made, in no way, shape, or form is it that. It is so recycled. There's like one or two things peppered in that I think they think they're being clever for, but I feel like I've seen in other films. It's no story whatsoever. The story doesn't make sense. There's so much expository dialogue. There's no chemistry between anybody. Visually, it looks like it is shot on like a small soundstage, and then everything else is CG. It certainly doesn't trust its audience in terms of the threadbare plot. And the nail in the coffin is it's not so bad, it's good. So again, I know it's hard to make a film. I know lots of people put hard work into it. Nobody sets out to make a bad film. And yet they have very much succeeded in making a bad film here. I am only going to give this a 1.5 out of 5.